Today is a video from our resume series to help you make your resume better. I want to tell you a quick story. It's my favorite story. A guy emailed me his resume several times and then finally caught me on the phone. He said to me that he couldn't understand why he was looking for 6 months, sending his resume everywhere, and couldn't get anybody to call him back. The guy had an MBA, great background, but his resume was terrible. I explained to him that his resume just was no good. I explained to him that he would need to really redo the entire thing. So he asked me to help him. I helped him redo his resume. We made it into a nice 2-page format. The end of the story really is this. In 6 months, he got no callbacks. We redid his resume, sent his resume out to a client. In 2 hours, they phone interviewed him. The next day, they flew him out for a job, and they hired him on the spot. 6 months of unemployment. And just because he changed his resume in the way it appeared to the end consumer, he got a job in 72 hours. So this is the start of the resume series to help you create a better resume. First, we'll talk about education. Welcome to the resume series, talking about education. It's very important to articulate things very well on your resume so companies can appreciate the things that you've done in your career. We're going to talk a little bit about how you go about letting people know your education and further education background so that they can understand what values you bring to the team. Next, let's look at college education and how you should have it presented on your resume. First, let's look at the ways you should not have your education listed. Here's a degree in business administration with a GPA of 2.4. He graduated from University of Florida in 1972. So what are the issues here? Well, issue number one is he indicates that he has a degree, but he doesn't actually indicate what his degree is in. Is it an associate's? Is it a bachelor's? Is it a master's? By not listing a degree on a resume, you're asking the person on the other end to try to interpret what exactly you have. Sometimes they won't even call you to ask. Sometimes they'll just assume you don't have a bachelor's degree. Sometimes they'll think you're hiding something. It's very important to be very clear and concise when telling somebody what your education is. Next, look at GPA. Everybody knows that anything below a 3.0 is not that great. So why would you then brag about having a 2.4 GPA? Unless your GPA is above 3.0, I wouldn't list it. And lastly, there's graduation date. Again, nobody really can discriminate based on someone's age, but people do really care. In fact, I can tell you, people will look at your dates and they'll assimilate things from those dates no matter how you present it. So it's very important to try to take away from that stereotype and don't allow people to look at your resume and try to figure out how old you are or when did you start your career. So I wouldn't list dates at all as far as graduation dates unless you're younger and you want to put that you just got a degree. I wouldn't actually put a date at all because I don't think it's relevant and it certainly doesn't help you from a personal standpoint. So what's the best way to look at our education? Well, bachelor's degree in business administration from University of Florida. Short, sweet, to the point. Make sure it's clear and concise and make sure it gives all the right information. Now let's talk about a few tips. If you have a bachelor's degree or higher, it is very important to put your education at the top of the resume. I can't tell you how many times guys with master's degrees have it on the second page all the way at the bottom. Education is very critical for a lot of companies. They use it as a weeding out tool. So it's very important to highlight your education when necessary. In this case, I would absolutely put education at the top if you have a bachelor's degree or greater. Now, if you have an associate's degree or below, I would definitely recommend leaving it on the back end of the second page. You want companies to see the value of your work experience before they value your education. So I would certainly emphasize what you do have, not what you don't have. Now, when it comes to certifications and licenses, I oftentimes like to keep them together. However, in the cases where you only have an associate's degree, you'll want to separate them. Certifications and licenses are very important, especially in several fields, many different fields where they require them. So I would recommend making sure that's up top as well. In addition, you can even go as far as putting your certifications licenses in your name itself, at the tail end behind your last name, so people know that you carry those certifications, licenses, or degrees. Lastly, let's talk about high school. I can't tell you how many resumes I see where high school is listed. The likelihood is, if you're sending out a resume for a job, they're probably going to assume that you have a high school diploma or a GED. And it's probably fairly likely that you do. There's no need to put high school education or high school diploma on your resume, because a lot of times it's a given. So take it off your resume. It's not necessary. If you don't have a GED and you don't have a diploma, then what you want to do is just make sure that you let them know up front that you don't have it. But the likelihood is you probably will. Next, what about degree mills? Degree mills is a major problem that we're going to talk about. It's where companies incorporate themselves to hand out diplomas for money. They call them life degrees or life earned degrees. It's where your life experience allows you to get a diploma. We'll talk about the types of places that you can get those from and where not to get them from. If you haven't completed your degree, please make sure you indicate on your resume that it's incomplete. It's okay to put pursuing bachelor's degree or bachelor's degree pending or bachelor's degree incomplete, but don't put bachelor's degree if you haven't actually gotten the degree. Not only is it misleading to the customer, but it also makes you look like a liar, and you don't want to misrepresent yourself. If your degree is incomplete, sell them on how much you've actually completed. Give them the hours that you've gone through your education. Let them know how much you've put towards your education. If you just started your degree, then it's probably not necessary. Online degrees are also a huge trend right now, and there's tons of accredited online institutions and colleges. I got my MBA from a very reputable university, accredited, one of the top 6 MBAs in the country, and it was an online program. So there's nothing wrong with online education. However, there also isn't a need to tell people that it's an online diploma. If you get a degree from an accredited university, whether it's a degree where you sat in a classroom or it's a degree that you got online, it's the same degree. There's no difference. You don't get ranked separately because you have an online education. So at the end of the day, I would definitely not list that it's an online degree because I don't think it really matters. So now let's talk about degree mills. This is the dreaded thing that I tell people all the time. Make sure you do your homework. Just because a university says they can give you a degree because you're going to pay them 10 grand and you have 10 years experience, doesn't mean it's accredited. How degree mills work is they incorporate themselves as a company, and then they have another company who's incorporated to accredit them, saying that they're accredited, and they're not really accredited by the government. There are 10,000 of these companies in the US and growing, and they'll steal your money and give you no value. So how do you know if your degree is real? Go to chea.org and find out. A couple things to know when you do have an unaccredited degree. I strongly wouldn't recommend you list it on your resume. Companies will find out that it's unaccredited. They'll either not take you through the process, meaning when they realize that your degree is unaccredited, they may not even talk to you. If they do talk to you and they take you through the entire process, and at the end of the process you get an offer, but it's contingent on verifying your degree, guess what? If they can't verify that it's accredited, you'll lose the job. So do yourself a favor. If you know it's not a real degree, or if you know it's coming from an unaccredited school, don't list it on your resume because it has no value. So make sure you pay attention to your education. It's important. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to hit me up at michaelglinter.com, or you can email me or find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or any other wonderful social media websites. Have a great day.